Yo, yo, it's the RedBlue podcast crew. Reviewing flicks, both old and new. Red and blue, not political. Nah, man, chill. It was Marvel versus DC till we lost that thrill. Don't stress the episode, don't ask the season. We double up franchises, don't ask for a reason. Multi's got rules that nobody gets. His takes on movies, they're wild as it gets. He's got Super Bowl Mac and Gray by his side, trying to keep it sane while they're in for the ride. Multi's measures are out of control, but in the end he's got the final role. Yeah, that blue podcast, come check the scene. Movies old and new, know what I mean?
This is Multi-Topic Talk. I bring you another after show. Today we talk about Am I Okay? A movie that came out in 2024, and I hope all of you will enjoy. If you want to see the main show, click in the description below. Let's talk about Am I Okay? I found so many ways to just destroy that title of that movie. I just can't remember how to spell it right. How are you, Gray?
I'm doing okay. I've had better days, but I get to talk about movies, so that's a good thing. What
Yeah,
about yourself, Multi? How you doing?
doing great. And again, talking about movies is the best thing that can happen in a week. I just like it. It's fun. Talk about movies more often, folks. It's the best thing to do with friends and all. So I will let Gray uh, poke holes in such a great movie if you want to go first.
Sure. I don't think I have nearly as much to say about this one as some of them that I have had stuff to say about in the past. I made that sound really weird. So yeah, this is one that was from a first-time feature director. Both of the women, Stephanie Allen and Tig Notaro, they happen to be married, which good for them. But this is the first feature that either of them has directed. I know Tig's directed a couple things for TV and then a few specials, and I believe Stephanie Allen has also done some TV in the past, but neither of them have done a feature. And neither of them have worked together on a feature. So that was kind of interesting. I think that would be kind of tough to co-direct a movie with anyone, let alone a spouse. But hey, I couldn't tell which scenes were directed by Tig and which were directed by Stephanie, so I think they did it pretty well. It seemed kind of flawlessly a same world thing. That being said, and I think it's kind of an issue with the script for me. So I love the dry humor in this. A lot of Dakota Johnson's strength is kind of this, and it is what people criticize her about, is kind of this wooden kind of stiffness, but that's kind of what this calls for. It kind of calls for like a Tig Notaro type delivery, and I think that's kind of how she was coached to do it. She does come off very much in the vein of Tig Notaro in this, which is awesome. They're not just ripping her off. She is the director of this. So I'm guessing that's why the script kind of called to both Tig Notaro and her wife, but it is kind of based on the real life story of the writer, Lauren Pomerantz, where she basically had this kind of late in life, I think early 30s kind of epiphany that she was gay. And then she also had this best friend. So she just kind of merged both of those stories into this. And I think the dry comedy kind of works in a way. However, there is kind of a problem for me. It doesn't feel like it's a cohesive movie. It doesn't feel like I'm watching like a cohesive story. It just feels like I'm watching this collection of scenes, like a collection of sketches, if you will. I don't hate it, but I don't know. It doesn't seem kind of cinematic in scope. It just kind of feels like, okay, we're doing this thing. Okay, now we're here. Okay, now we're at dinner. Now we're at this thing. There are some really funny sketches within that. I thought the whole hammock thing is hilarious, and the fact during that hammock scene that you get to see Tig Notaro wearing a wig and being the hippie, hell yeah, I really enjoyed that. But overall, it didn't feel like it was a cohesive movie to me. I think the other main problem that I have with it is it just seems miscast. to me, it feels like almost anybody else would have been more believable than Dakota Johnson. Just man, I don't get having that personality and working. It doesn't work for me. It doesn't come off as believable that somebody as beautiful as Dakota Johnson wouldn't have, kind of experienced anything in life at the age of 32. And then also just I almost wish anybody else were casting this. Like I do think if Alana Glazer from Babes that we had just seen was kind of in this role, I do think it would have come off a lot better. That being said, I don't think Dakota Johnson's performance was bad. I just didn't buy her as this character. It didn't come off as believable. Where I really did get a Sonia Mizuno, who is the other lead, as Jane. I did believe her as the Jane character. I just didn't believe Dakota Johnson as a Lucy, sadly. And I think that's my main two problems with this. Other than that, it's a collection of kind of fun scenes in a way. So the original title was Lucy and Jane. That to me makes sense. That kind of explains what this movie is. But am I okay? I don't know. To me, the title just seems. It also doesn't seem like it really fits this story. I don't think she ever figures that out. Like she changes a couple things, but we're not really with her on the journey. Like all of a sudden they just do this montage of, okay, now she's going out and dating. Oh, okay, we're months down the road, and oh, okay, so now everything is just fine and she has quit her job. It seems weird. It doesn't feel like we're actually going on the journey with either of these characters to me. I guess I wanted a little bit more of that. Instead, it just kind of felt like, okay, here's this scene, and now it's a jump in time, and now here's this scene. I wanted it to be a little bit more cohesive. There is a character, Danny, who's played by Jermaine Fowler. He's the boyfriend of Jane. I have a couple of issues with it. So I think he's a really funny guy. I think he's basically doing a Kevin Hart impression, which is really interesting. I actually hadn't seen this one since like the beginning of last year, and I was out of the room, and all of a sudden, like I heard him talking, and it's like, wait a minute, is that Kevin Hart? Like I swear he wasn't in this movie, and then I came back and it's like, oh, that's not Kevin Hart. He's just doing a Kevin Hart. It's really interesting. I've seen him do kind of the same type of role, kind of like what we got with Hassan Minhaj, but it doesn't feel like it's got the depth. It's just that okay, I'm the perfect boyfriend type character, except for there is a twist in this one, and it leads to a really poor decision that I think they made in this, which made it feel more like it was sketches to me. And it's the birthday dinner scene for Jane. Like he's known that he's felt a particular way and that he disagrees with something. And he waits, even though he's got a couple of weeks, he waits until that moment, that night, to make sure that she knows that he has made a decision that will shock her. It really doesn't ring true to me as somebody who's been in relationships. It's a lot kinder to let somebody have like their day and not ruin this special event. And perhaps the next day you could talk or something like that. It wasn't like there was a time crunch. It just seemed weird. That seemed super inconsistent. Then we get to kind of, so I don't know. I think in a couple of his performances, Jermaine Fowler has kind of come off as like the poor man's Kevin Hart. And I think this is the epitome of that I've seen from him. It sucks. I have liked this dude in a couple of other roles that I've seen him in. I know last year he was in like Ricky Stenicki. I dug him as that character. It felt like there was more depth to it, where this, all of a sudden, there's kind of nothing. He's just perfect boyfriend until he's perfect asshole. It doesn't really leave room for growth for me. I would have liked to see more of his character's growth, more of Jane's growth, more of Lucy's growth, but we don't really get that here. And I guess that's just what I would have wanted. Um, I've got one more problem, and it's kind of with the ending of this. Uh, so I guess this would be spoilers, but what the hell? I've spoiled everything else. So where is her luggage in the car? Would Jane have not seen that there's luggage in the car? And then she says, I brought a carry on, but it's like, okay, but she didn't think of where to park her car or anything like that. Like, how do you plan some of it, but then just completely be oblivious to the other parts of it? It doesn't seem to make any sense. I don't view her as this super spontaneous character. That doesn't seem to fall in line with anything that they've established with this character. I think she would have planned a lot of things out meticulously and would have thought about it. And it just seems like they dropped the ball on the writing for that particular thing. And then on top of that, she apparently would just be gone for like a random 2 weeks. How loaded is this lady? She just quit her job as a receptionist, and yet she can pay rent on a place for 2 weeks while she's a painter, but also go off to a different country for a fortnight. I understand, she'd basically be living with her friend who has a stipend or whatever, but still, it's random plane ride, and then I'm sure you're going to have expenses. I don't know. Plus, whatever she's doing with her car, if she's parking at the airport, my God, that's a fortune. Whatever it's going to be. Just how does a receptionist who apparently doesn't care about work, how is she going to afford any of this? That doesn't seem to
That's
make sense to
how
me.
you go in debt, my friend.
Okay. So that's basically the end of my criticism on that. Other than that, I found it a charming film. I really like Sean Hayes in this. Sometimes Sean Hayes can be super over the top. He plays Jane's boss in this one. I swear I've had a smarmy guy just like him as my boss. That totally worked for me. And then I thought a lot of the other characters, like Ben, the guy that lives in the same building as Lucy, who she kind of strung along, I think they could have made that character really stupid or one dimensional. And man, they just made him super understanding in the two scenes that are randomly put there for him. Again, like none of these scenes are bad. It just doesn't feel like they're connected to me, which I guess I would have liked a little bit more tissue connecting them. But I like a lot of these characters. Same thing with Brittany, the masseuse that is a little handsy with Lucy. I liked her entire arc with everything too. I thought that it did feel like real chemistry between her and Lucy, and it did feel like that whole like will they, won't they thing. I thought there was another thing that the film did that was kind of smart. In the beginning, I think some of the angles that they chose made it kind of seem like maybe Lucy was going to be super into Jane, and they just quickly show that that's not where this is going at all. That's not what this is about. This isn't about like an unrequited love between two friends. They're just two amazing friends. I really like that. I like that it didn't try to go into that. I think it would be very easy to keep those things kind of separate and not make this weird kind of stew of romance throughout this entire thing. And man, it makes for, they each have one really good relationship in their life, and that's why this was going to be called Lucy and Jane. Uh, the other bit of information in this, I guess, this was filmed during the pandemic. So it was supposed to be a 20-day shoot, and then twice they got shut down for 10 days because of the disease or whatever. So it ended up being a 40-day shoot, like twice as long as it was supposed to go. And this was during a year that Dakota Johnson was doing, like, I can't remember if it was 3 or 4 different productions. So it almost was a huge headache and almost didn't work. But they were able to make quite a decent film. I don't hate the film. I wish for a little bit more. So I would love to hear what you've got to say about it. But the only other bit of information that I have on it is sadly, I can't find the estimated budget anywhere, or it wasn't released anywhere, so it doesn't have a box office. But the information that is out there is after Sundance 2022, where it was premiered, it was bought for $7 million from Max or HBO Max at the time, and it did get a premiere on Max last year. So I don't think this one's going to make anything back, but I'm guessing it was made for under $7 million, to where there was some sort of profit from that. So it's kind of a fun little tiny film.
I think this is very interesting, and this highlights how when you plan on just having a movie being digital, you won't make that much money. Let's be honest. Movies that go straight to video on demand, I think that's the word. They don't expect to make money, I think. Uh,
Well, I'm not
I
sure if they
thought
were. HBO bought it after it premiered at Sundance, but I think they were hoping that somebody would buy it at Sundance and then it would get like a big theater premiere. But still, if it was made for a couple million, 7 million is nothing to scoff at. I'm sure they at least made their budget back on this. But yeah, it's an interesting film. Thanks for making me take a second look at this one. I totally, again, this wouldn't have been top 10 or bottom 10. I just kind of wrote it off as like, yeah, I watched that last year, but I didn't really give it a second thought.
I actually went into it expecting to like it. I don't know why, but I was like, that sounds like a fun friendship movie, and I will be honest. At first, I was like, I will pair it with another female-led movie with the friendship in it, and I thought they would work well together. And after watching both movies, I'm like, I don't know if it's really that good of an idea to mash them together. So that's why we ended up dividing both movies. I liked Am I Okay a lot more than Babes. I had no issues with Am I Okay, and I remember watching All of Us Stranger. I think that was the name in 2023, and we had a lot of LGBTQ plus romance in it, and I feel like Am I Okay is also kind of like that, but I like Am I Okay more, and that's one of my crazy takes here. I'm wild, but I really enjoyed the friendship between both lead, and I liked a lot the boyfriend as well. The boyfriend was interesting, and I I really enjoyed that movie a lot. I feel like I repeat myself, but I feel like the cast had chemistry, and the cult joke was very funny. Just like what you said, the Amok cult payoff was just amazing. And you were asking me what's my type of humor. I will say this is my type of humor. I laughed
Okay.
at pretty much anything in that
Y-
movie.
You should check out some of Tig Notaro's comedy. She is one of the co-directors of this, and she plays one of the hammock cult gurus. But man, it's kind of that dry comedy style, especially kind of a very dry, subtle delivery that she has that I think Dakota Johnson was kind of tapping into. But if you like this one, I think you'll like some of her stuff. She is hilarious. No, no shots being fired at you or anything like that. Just like, okay, if that's the type of comedy you like, I think you dig some of Tig Notaro's stuff. She's hilarious.
I'll investigate her since you said she does a lot of similar thing. I'm really interested now. I will say, um, I thought the ending was perfect, and the main character was lying about a lot of things placed in the forefront by her friend. I thought their dynamic and their friendship was just what worked best, and seeing that breaking apart at some point in the movie was kind of sad. And you're like, yeah, it makes sense because if I remember correctly, the best friend is very controlling, like way too much about everything. That's part of her character. Um, am I right on that, or do I mix up that movie with something
I
else?
mean, no, you're right. Like she is a successful businesswoman who tends to kind of know what she wants, where it seems like Dakota Johnson is the opposite of that in this. But she changes by the end. But yeah, you're not wrong. It does seem like she knows what she wants. She's very decisive, like where she agrees to do the trip without ever talking to her boyfriend and just assumes that he'll be there. You're kind of right. She's pretty decisive.
She's a girl boss, as some people may call her. Um, and I thought the multicolored ad was a visual representation of the main character being potentially lesbian at some point, and that was before we really get to know that reveal at some point. Um, and it's about finding identity, and I think it's something a lot of people could relate to at some point because we are all trying to find ourselves at some point in our lives.
It just happened later with that main character. Um, and it's also kind of sad when she realized she was used by her coworker to have some fun, because she wanted that relationship and that connection, but they just like they went there with different intent and different desire per se. That was kind of sad and interesting. I really enjoyed that movie. It was a very fun trip for me, and there's just so much to say. The boyfriend standing his ground on staying was cool. It added floors to his character, because if he just followed her, it would just be a puppet, and puppet are not that great characters. Um, any thoughts on that,
Puppets
Drake?
aren't so bad. I'm a fan of puppets. How dare you besmirch the puppet? But I hear what you're saying. I want him to have some backbone. I want him to stand up. I don't like the way that he did it. Like, if they're going to do it as a big scene, like, then make it hilarious. Instead, it's just kind of awkward, and the waiter happens to be there right at the moment. I feel like you could get a big pop of comedy if you're going to do that, but instead it was just really subtle. It's understated, but not in the way that I kind of prefer with comedy. I hear what you're saying. It does add a bit of layer to Jermaine Fowler's character, but yeah, I wanted a little bit more, I guess. I want even more Jermaine Fowler in this, but fair enough.
And again, you said it. One of the two friends is taking the lead while the other one is very passive, and I really enjoyed that dynamic there. It makes the characters very different, and they are also very similar. That's why they are friends. And people screaming to let it out was hilarious at some point. I'm all over the place with my notes and such. Um, but yeah, I I enjoyed how the best friend was escaping instead of facing off things. Uh, that was cool. Uh, anyway, I will never have enough things to say about that movie. I think that movie is probably top 20 for me for last year. Uh, actually, it's like 13th or so, 14th.
Wow,
Yeah,
that is
it's
pretty high.
it's
Fair
right
enough.
above McScene, and I liked McScene a lot. Uh,
I I'm not going to argue with you. Tastes are subjective. Fair enough. I guess I just wanted a little bit more out of this. I love everyone that's involved in it, and I thought there could have been like a really funny film on there, and I think I chuckled a couple times is all. So I don't know, man. Mine would not be nearly as high, but it's nowhere near the bottom of my list. I'll put it that way.
amazing. So, do you want to add anything before we move on to the grade?
No. It's worth seeing. I definitely want to see if either Tignataro or her wife ends up doing another one, another feature. I definitely want to see it, and it has made me want to watch some of Tignataro's comedy because, man, she is hilarious, and I gotta say the laugh per minute is a lot higher in her comedy than this particular movie. I just I was hoping for a little bit more, but that being said, not a bad flick.
Yeah. What would be your grade out of 10?
For me, it's a little better than average, so I think I'd give it a 6 out of 10. What about you, sir? I know you have a different scale, so you really liked it. Where would you go? What is this, like 9.7?
You're right. I will sound crazy. 10 out of 10. I had no
Damn.
issues with that thing. I like that movie so much, and I'm excited to rewatch it eventually when I will get the time to. I think it's just a fun movie. I've seen lots of rom com, and I feel like that movie was, at some extent, a rom com. I like that. That's a good one. And are we adding anything else?
I think that's it. Just it's definitely worth seeing. It holds up on a second watch, so yeah, I wouldn't discourage you from that. But yeah, thanks for making me watch this. I doubt this will be a very popular review, as this isn't a very popular film. But it deserved a little bit more than it got. So hey, if we can do our bit to spread the word, we did a good deed.
Yeah, and we are out.